Neha, I started. I started learning. This one. I started learning Chinese last 4 days. Uh, yeah, only I am able to do this one. Sorry. Uh, Welcome all. Welcome to the presentation Java Beyond Frameworks, avoiding lock-in with agnostic design. Me and Mike is not a best combination, so let me know if you are not able to hear properly. Before I forgot, let's take a selfie. Yeah, I'm really bad at taking selfies. So my wife told me go to all the conferences and take selfies until you are good. So let's take a selfie and let's see how it goes. At least I will be good. Cheers. Yes. Thank you. Let's take a moment and take a look at this code. Few years back, when I joined my current team, I came across something like this. So I was thinking, why we need super there? Object is a parent class of all the classes in Java, but usually we don't write it, right? We don't write the super call to that super constructor. I had the same doubt, so I went and asked the senior developer who wrote this particular piece of code, and he told me, I don't believe in magic. If something is not visible, it's magic. So here the call to the call to object is not visible. So for him, it's magic. Frameworks are also like that. They do a lot of magic for you. They abstract away a lot of details which you will be missing. So in this talk, I'm going to explain few ways to make your application framework free as much as possible. Before going on, why you need to go framework agnostic? Short answer is framework will change. Your business logic should not have to. Long answer you will find after this talk. Who am I? I'm Rijo Sam. I'm a Java chapter lead at ABN AMRO Bank, Netherlands. And I'm originally from India, now settled in Tiel with my wife. It's a small town in Netherlands, way far from Amsterdam. I like Java, cycling, and burgers. So if you want to connect with me, these are the topics. But this slide is from last week. Now it's TX, dumplings, and beef noodles, and way more. So thanks for that. Great food. Now, in this talk, I'm going to explain how different ways to be framework agnostic and some challenges and trade-off at the end. Let's start with a game. We only have one objective. We need to decouple the code base from the framework. Let me go to the code. Let's, is it visible? Good. Back? Fine. Okay, this is a simple Spring Boot application. What it does, you will get to know in a minute. Let me start the application. Application started, and we have an endpoint called get code. And what it will do, it will give me a code from one of the characters from Friends series. Any Friends fans? Oh, two, three. I was not expecting that much. But if you don't know Friends, it's totally fine. This application, what it does, it's a Spring Boot application. When we give a request to this application, it will get a random data, a list of data from the S2 database, and show it to you. That's it. How many of you are using Spring Boot or Spring? Most of you guys. Good. So the example is with Spring Boot, and you can also apply the principle to the other frameworks. Let me open the POM. Here you can see it's a Spring starter, all the basic Spring things. And I will go to the controller. Just showing you the application. So this is the Spring Boot controller. You can see it's a Rust controller, and we have to get one is a code. That is the one I showed you. It will fetch you a random code from the database. And there is also another endpoint which I will explain little later. I will also show you the service. Simple service. Here we will have one function. What it will do, it will go to the repository, get all the codes, and find a random code from there. And I will also show the repository. It's a Spring JPA repository. So it will connect to the H2 database. That is our application. So our goal here, by the end of the talk, make this application as much as framework free. Let's start the game. We have multiple levels. Let's start with the easy or the first level. Use less framework annotations. What's our objective here? Use JSR 330 standard annotation. And what's it? It's officially the dependency injection for Java. It's nothing new. It's been there for ages. It's a standard annotation, a set of standard annotations. And most importantly, it's framework agnostic. That means it is supported by multiple frameworks. How to use it? You just need to use the dependency, Jakarta inject API, then you are good to go. And if you are using Spring, you can directly use at inject instead of at auto-wired, at named instead of component, and singleton instead of at scope singleton, like that. Let me show you. Somebody was taking photo. Okay, good. Let's go. So first thing we need to have the dependency. Let me open the project. Yeah, I have it here. Jakarta inject API. Once you have it, then you are good to go. Your Spring Boot application. So if I go to the service, and instead of at service, I can use at named. And instead of auto-wire, this auto-wire is not needed. It's only for the demo purpose. At inject. So what I did here, I just replaced Spring specific annotation with the standard annotations. Let me start the application and see whether it's working. It started. Yes, I'm able to get a response. That means this, if you want to start framework agnostic development, this is the easiest level. You can just do it right away in your project. One thing to remember, if you are looking for direct translation of all the annotations in Spring, it's not there. For example, if, yeah, I can also show you. We only have this set of annotations at inject named provider qualifier scope singleton. So if you want to find an alternative for at value or at lazy, it's not there. So you need to find some workaround. But this is something to start with. So we passed our first level. So the simple level we passed. Now let's move on to the second level, decouple core logic. Let me explain. What's our objective here? We need to identify our core business logic, move it to a separate package, and most importantly, no framework imports in your core business logic. So what is your core logic? It's not your database access. It's not your cloud connection. It's your main business logic. What that means, in our case, we are getting a list of codes and we are selecting one random code from it. So that's our core business logic. Once you have identified it, you can make it into a separate package. So our current package structure looks like this. We can move it to something like this. So what we are doing, we are introducing a new modules, and here business logic module will have all your business logic, core business logic, and database module and a Spring Boot deployment module. The idea of deployment module is to limit all your framework to that particular module and try to auto-ware or auto wire together everything there. So the usage of Spring, we will limit it to that module. Let's go back to the code. So here, let me explain. I have multiple projects opened. They all are the same project, GitHub project with multiple branches. So making it faster, I opened it into a different project and imported it into IntelliJ. So all are uh, in the same project of GitHub, multiple branches. So this is the main branch and this is the next branch. So if you want to look into it later, this is how it works. Okay, so I already did something for you. I made the packaging structure. You can see it here. I can also make it a little bigger. So in business logic, this is where we have our service implementation. So here I extracted the particular service implementation, and most important thing, there is no annotations here. And if I open the POM, you can see there is no framework related imports. What we only have a dependency to our database module. And if I open my Spring Boot deployment app or module, here you can see, yeah, it's all Spring Boot related things, same. Only difference here is I'm having a config file where I create a bean here for the code service, so which can be used inside the Spring Boot deployment module. Why I'm using this? Because we can make use of Spring here. We don't want to throw it away completely. And other thing is database module. It's same right now. If you look at here, it's a same Spring Boot data JPA persistence everything. So if I open the repository, it's the same JPA repository. So what we did, we found our core business logic and make it to a package, separate package without any framework and framework imports. Let me start again and find a code. Yeah, this is the best one. Welcome to the real world. It sucks. You're gonna love it. If you haven't watched Friends, please go and watch. Okay, so let me go back. What we did, we made our business logic framework free. Okay. So we will go to our third level. Make database module framework free. Sorry, before going that level, we need to finish a side quest. Let's do that. What's our side quest? Use cloud service APIs. What's our objective? Avoid using SDKs or the client libraries from your cloud provider and access cloud services via API calls. For example, Azure Key Vault. How many of you are familiar with Azure Key Vault? Okay, nobody. Then all of you are using AWS or okay, that's good. So let me explain what's Azure Key Vault. Azure is a service like AWS cloud service provider from Microsoft, and it's Azure Key Vault is a service from Azure, where you can store keys, secrets, and certificates. So in AWS, I think AWS is having multiple services for that, for key management and secret. I'm not that sure, but I can also show you Azure Key Vault. So this is my Azure portal or the home portal. Is it visible? Yes. So if I go to Key Vault, I have a Key Vault. This is a service from Azure which I subscribed or created. And here I have an endpoint for that. This is my endpoint for Azure Key Vault. And if you look at here, I can store my keys, certificates, and secret. So I have a secret called password, and the name of the secret is password, and the value is the value of password. So This is a service from Azure where you can use store all your secrets and things which you don't want to be in your application. So that's a little bit side about Azure Key Vault. Now, easiest way to access Azure Key Vault from your Java service is use the client API from Azure. So if you put this dependency there, then you are good to go. I can also show you. So this is my application which you have seen earlier, and if I told you I have an extra endpoint, so get secret. So this endpoint, what it will do, it's a stupid thing. What it will go, it will connect to the cloud Azure Key Vault and get me the value of the secret. That's it. So let me. So this is how I am doing using the Azure client library. So it's simple. I just need to create objects of some of the classes, and then I need to call a default function. So here I am using some tenant ID. You don't need to know about that. This is where I am authorizing myself. Okay, I am able to access that key vault, and here I am connecting to that endpoint and getting the secret. So everything I am doing with the client library. So let me start the application. I have internet. Let me try to hit. Come on, come on. I think no, yeah. Now you know my password, but doesn't matter. I trust you guys. So what we did, we were able to connect to Key Vault, that service running in Azure, and get the value of that password. I will also show you the POM where I have Azure. Yeah, these are the two dependencies or client libraries from Azure which I am using. One is for identification or authorization, and the second one is for connecting to the Key Vault. So this is the easiest way we can do. But the problem we, in myself or my company, we faced a lot here is we are dependent with this particular library. So when everything works, if I go back, uh, when it's so small, right? When everything works, it works perfectly. But if it's not working, it's too much pain to find out what went wrong. So, and if you want to write some custom exception handling or error handling, it is always have a problem. And the third problem we face it whenever there is a new Java version or something, sometimes we are stuck or we are dependent on them to get an updated version. So it's one more dependency to manage. So let's go back. Let me stop. So now what we are going to do, instead of using that SDK, we are using directly going to connect with the REST API, which is provided by the cloud provider itself. All the cloud provider, AWS, I'm not sure whether you are using, but all the cloud providers, they are having a REST APIs also. This is the particular REST API for getting that secret value. So what we are going to use it directly without using any SDKs. So for connecting with the REST endpoint, we have multiple REST clients. Fain client. Anybody using Fain? Good. It's not that nice. So it's a net. If you don't know about it, don't worry. Let's skip it. Spring Web Client, which is good. If you are using it, good. But for now, what we are going to use, we are going to use Jakarta REST client because yeah, we need to keep things standard. So it's a standard API in Jakarta Enterprise. It's lightweight and portable, and it's also fluent chaining like your Spring Web client. How to create it? Jakarta REST client. Yeah, you just create a client, then you create a target for your endpoint, then you are good. Let's go back to our application. I'm moving the project or the branch here. First thing, if I go to the POM, I don't have any Azure dependencies now. What I have is Jakarta RS. Yeah, it's there. You need to trust me now, but let's go back. It will be here. Yeah. this is from where I'm using Jakarta REST client. And if I go to the configuration, so now yeah, you can see there is no Azure imports because it's not there. Right now we have two new functions. First one is to get access token. So I am connecting to Azure, get an OO token, and using that OO token, I am going to connect to my key vault and get the password. You can see it's a lot more code, definitely, but what we are having, we can have custom errors if you want. You can have exception handling. You can have retries. So we are having more control here. In this function, what I'm getting the access token from Azure, and using the Azure token, I am calling the secret key vault. Here I am connecting to this particular key vault with this secret name, and then I am yeah, fetching the value. Let me also run this one. Error. Okay, I think I did something yesterday with Java 25. So something maybe invalid source release. Okay, doesn't matter. We skip it for now. But what we did now, we are connecting to the cloud service directly with their endpoints. I can also show you how code looks compared to the last iteration. Let me. So it was like this earlier. Now we have more custom code, but then you have also your freedom to write your own customization. So it's a side quest. It's not directly linked to the framework Agnostic, but if you want to do it, you are good to do it. Also this is a way you can connect with all your APIs. Try using Jakarta REST instead of other things, so that it will be more standardized. So we paused again. This sound is for some. If somebody is sleeping, then they can wake up in between. Now let's move on to the level 3. Make our database module framework free. So that's something we started earlier, but we cannot able to complete. What's our objective here is to use Jakarta persistence. And what is Jakarta persistence? It's a standard for persistent management and ORM in Java. I We all are using it because it's also a standard in Spring Boot. So how many of you are familiar with this annotation at entity? Most of you guys. It's because it's from Jakarta persistence. Now we are going to use it little deeper. We are going to use Entity Manager API from Jakarta Persistence. What Entity Manager API do? It's provide a set of APIs for managing your entities, creating, updating all those functions. So in order to access an entity, there are different querying methods in Jakarta Persistence. First one is Jakarta Persistence query language. Second one is named queries. Third is criteria API. For this talk, we are only going to use Jakarta persistence query language. The rest we will skip because of the time, but they are there if you want to use. So what's Jakarta persistence query language? It's something very similar to SQL. You can see select E from employee E. It's intentional. The developers who develop it, they want it to be looks like SQL, but it's not SQL. So if you treat it as SQL, you are going to have a problem. Main difference here is this is not a table. Employee is an entity, that is an object. And what we are returning here is also not a set of rows or columns, it's an entity. Once you have that idea, and with that idea you can write more queries efficiently. One good thing with Jakarta persistence query language is you don't need to know about your database schema. So if your database is so complex, you don't need to know about it. Your queries are targeting the domain model or the objects. It's portable, so you can use with multiple SQL dialects. And one thing here, it lacks type safety. So you need to cast there. I will show you when we have the demo and how to use it. If you can use Jakarta persistence. If you are only using this one, you can use this dependency, or you have the bigger Jakarta jar. Let me go back. Let me close everything. I hope this one is running. Let's run it first. Okay, it started. Okay, it's working. So we don't want to fix it. So what we are doing here, we are going to make our database module framework free. Earlier we made our business logic framework free. Now we are going to make our database module framework free. So if I look at my POM file, so there is no Spring. This is a POM file of the database module. What we have is Jakarta persistence, which is already there. And I also have H2 database and Hibernate here. Let me go back. If you remember the last interface, now it was extending the Spring JPA. Now it's just an interface. And we have two new methods which we need to implement. And if you look at the implementation, first one is to save code. We need an entity manager. We have it here. All the entity manager we can create from entity manager factory, and entity manager factory is linked to a persistent unit. Our persistent unit is the S2 database here. So I can also show you to the properties. So this is our S2 database. So that is linked to the Jakarta entity manager factory, and from entity manager factory we can create an entity manager. When you create an entity manager, make sure that it's short-lived, because it's not thread safe. So you need to close it after you use it. So we create an entity manager, and the next one is for saving the code. We are using the persist method, which is already there from entity manager. And next one, find all, like we need to find all the codes. Here same, I'm creating an entity manager. Next is, that's the one, Jakarta query language, Jakarta persistence query language. What I'm doing here, I'm writing a query to collect all the codes. Important thing, it's not SQL, so all the star, those things won't work. Make sure that you understand that one. Let me run. So we are able to connect with our database and get the code from there. One thing I told you, it's not type safe. What that means is, in the query language, instead of code, I'm doing like this. So, okay, maybe a side question. How many of you think this code will compile? Compile. Nobody thinks it will compile. One person, two. Don't be shy. So all others thinks it will not compile, right? But let's see. I'm running. It will compile, because the error is from IntelliJ, not from your Java compiler. It's not type safe. Only when I'm running this. Okay, because it's not started. Let me start it again. It will start, and only when I am requesting, I will get an error, because it's only runtime error. But IntelliJ is so smart. IntelliJ already found it that it's an error. Yeah. So make sure that you write it and cast it properly when you are connecting. So what we did, let's go back. What we did, we have enough time. We made our database module also framework free. So from our business logic is already framework free, and we made our database module also framework free. Okay. Now we pass our next level. Let's move on to our boss battle or the final level. Let's see how it goes. What's our objective here? We need to replace Spring with Quarkus and show zero changes in core modules. So theoretically, we made our business logic and database module framework free, so we can actually switch from Spring Boot deployment to Quarkus deployment, right? Let's see. So if we are able to do that, then it's this talk is a success. Let me stop this one. Let me close everything. Close all the tabs. So easiest way to do it is like right click, rename. Done. We are able to switch from Spring Boot deployment to Quarkus deployment. No, that's cheating, right? That's for this screenshot, but it won't work. It's in the under the hood. It's still using Spring. So what we need to do? We need to do. We renamed the module already. Let me. Then we need to update all the POM files. We need to change our controller and the other classes. We need to update the properties and then build and pray. Let's see. First thing anyway we done this part. Next is we need to update our parent and other POM files. So right now we have all the Spring related dependencies. You can see Spring Starter, going down, Jakarta inject, Spring related things. So this one we need to change. I'm not going to write everything. I have already templated that part. Otherwise it will be too difficult. So what I did, I changed the parent POM from Spring Boot. I removed all the Spring Boot things and I created, I copy pasted actually the code I written earlier. Right now, I imported the Quarkus BOM, that is the parent of all the dependencies in Quarkus. This demo is not for showing you from moving from Spring Boot to Quarkus. That's not the case here. I am going to show how easy it to change. So it will help you when you need to update your Spring Boot version. So if you want to move from 3 to 4, you only need to change in your deployment module. You don't need to test all of your modules. It's a big pain for us in my bank. We have a lot of dependencies with other systems. Whenever we change a Spring Boot version, sometimes we need to test the entire system. So when your modules are big enough and you have a lot of time for testing, I would say then you only need to test your particular deployment module. Your other modules are not tested. It's not needed to test. So first thing what we did, we changed our parent POM. Next one we need to change is our Quarkus deployment POM. What I'm going to do, I'm going to delete everything. Simple. Then I put my templating. What I did is templating. So I earlier written the code and make it as a template in IntelliJ to save some time. I'm reloading. So what is happening? It's reloaded. So right now, if I search, there is no Spring, but I can see all the Quarkus related dependencies here. So that's also good. So if I go back to my, we did the first two steps. Next thing is we need to update the controller and the other classes. So if I go here to my controller, first thing, this one. This is not needed in Quarkus, so we can just delete this. What Quarkus will do, Quarkus will auto create a main function for you when it starts. So you don't need to write. And if I go to the controller, we have all the Spring dependencies. We can just delete them. It's not needed. And instead of at rest controller, we can use at path, and I make it to the root. So good thing with Quarkus is already using a lot of standards from Jakarta, so you don't need to do a lot. So it's I used a path here, and instead of auto wire, I can use at inject. And here is our first endpoint, the get endpoint. That one I can just write get. And don't worry if you don't understand this one. This logic, the understanding, it's not for learning Quarkus. It's for showing you how to change things. That's it. And path. So what I did, I told the Quarkus that this is my get endpoint and the path is slash quote. And the same thing you can do here. This is a path and get. What is the problem? Oh, something is missing. Okay, I will go back. Okay. No. First thing is it's a get endpoint, get, and instead of get mapping, I can do path. So we changed our controller from Spring to all the Jakarta things, which is the standard in Quarkus. But you can see a couple of errors here. We have an unsatisfied dependency here and one more here because all our this code service and Azure Key Vault Manager, it's not recognized by the Quarkus CDI because we annotated with Spring 1. So we need to change that. Let's go to the configuration, boot configuration. Let me rename this one. Quarkus configuration, that's good. And at configuration is not needed in Quarkus. And instead of at bean, I can use at produces what provide. And what at produces will do, it will tell it's a bean for the Quarkus CDI. And I'm also saying application scoped, it is kind of singleton. And I remove everything here. Okay. And to the Key Vault Manager, again, I remove the configuration and maybe application scoped. I only want one Key Vault Manager. And I remove this one. So let me go back to the controller. You can see the errors is gone. So the Quarkus CDI or the CDI can find this one. Let's go back to the to-do. And what we did the first 3 steps. We renamed the module, changed the POMs, and changed the classes. Now we need to update the property file. So the properties, you can see it's already grayed out because the properties are for Spring. Now we need to change the properties. Same thing which we did in Spring. I'm connecting to the S2 database now with the Quarkus, Quarkus property files. Okay. Now we changed that also. Now is the important thing. We need to build and pray. Who is going to pray? Let's do it. Okay. Let's clean. This is a part where either you will have some fun or I will have some fun. We cleaned it. Let's verify. Fingers crossed. Okay, build is success. That's one first step. Now, what we can do? Okay, we can start the application again. Some errors. Okay, but yeah, it's fine. You can ignore those errors. Those are for Docker. We are not using the Docker. What Quarkus started and it's created a database for us. Also inserted all the values. I'm doing it with an import SQL. This is just a script import SQL which will be taken here. So this property file, same Spring, and I'm using it here. This property will import the create the database for me, and then use this value, all the data in this value to populate it. So that's what we are doing. Let's get a quote. I grew up with Monica. If you didn't eat fast, you didn't eat. Fine. So it's working. So what we did here, if I we changed our deployment module from Spring Boot to Quarkus without any changes in our core module or database module. You can see it also here. Only changes is in this Spring Boot deployment and the Quarkus deployment. So we were able to switch. But with great flexibility comes great responsibility. What that means, we were able to switch. We are so flexible. We were able to switch from Spring Boot to Quarkus in the same application without changing anything. But that will also have some problems. That is, we have a level of penalty. First one, we need to write more unit tests. So you have seen how like we wrote a lot of custom code. That means you need to test it more often than you used to be. Otherwise, it will break a lot. You need to write more documentation because now you are deviating from the things which all your colleagues used to write. So I have a new engineer join my team, and he want to move the team because there is no spring. He was asking, where is the spring? How I do something here? So you need to start document more things. Why you made that decision? Otherwise, nobody wants to join your team. Write clear decisions why you made this choice, and it's not for everybody, but you write it clearly and document it. And it also comes with a lot of maintenance because now you cannot blame Azure guys or Spring guys to not fixing that CVE. You need to fix it yourself. So it also comes with maintenance. And in the end, did we win? It depends, as always. So this is not for all the projects. So if, for example, if you're working in a startup where you need to push as fast as possible to the customer, I don't say this is beneficial. Use the things which is already available in market, Spring, Quarkus, or any frameworks. And yeah, if you are working with a big organization like a bank or company where you have enough money and enough time, it's worth investing in it because then you are more safer to the future. You have your custom handling, error handling, fixing things. So it's good. But I would say try experimenting with it. It's when I started with it, for me was also we are doing a long way things, but now I cannot do other way. It's so easy for me to keep doing like this, and the benefits I have seen many times. I never switched from Spring to Quarkus. We still have Spring, but whenever there is a Spring dependency update or something, it's so easy for us. So for other teams, it will take more time to fix and test everything. For us, we only need to change this particular module, and I'm good to go. So we are almost at the end. What are the key takeaways? Start using JSR 330 standard annotations and try to access your cloud service via APIs. That's something you can also try. Make your core logic framework free. That's important. I strongly believe that your core logic doesn't need any framework. It should be pure Java or Kotlin if you're writing a Kotlin code. And yeah, make use of Jakarta persistence more. It's already there in your as a dependency, so try using it more. And even if you are not writing agnostic code, write more test and documentation. It will definitely help you. With that said, CCA. And if you have any question, you can directly ask me, or if you want to
Yeah.
connect with me later, I will be here. I am not sure you use LinkedIn or Blue Sky. I heard that people are using Facebook. I'm not in Facebook, but then you can message me in any other way if you.
Um,
But I can also share my email later. So if you want to email me or ask me a personal question, do you have any question,
yeah, questions. We have two
any comments? Oh,
questions.
please.
Oh, thank you. That was a very
Thank you.
brilliant, very,
Thank you.
very excellent. But the truth is, we already dig too deep into the Spring Boot, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, we got transactional annotation everywhere.
Yeah.
So, for example, if we want to do something like this, these very cool things, right? How would you suggest us to start? I mean, we're already inside very, very deep
Yeah.
place already, right?
Yeah.
That's my question.
I know, I know. Start with your core business logic. That's what I would say. If you do only one change, identify what's your core business logic. What exactly your core business logic? In our case, it was so simple, but I know in the application, bigger application, identify that and try to modularize it. So that's the best way to start. So you are not changing a lot of things, but you are only identifying the small part which is core to you and try to change it. That's a nice question. We also faced it a lot. Where to start? So this is the way we started. So first, pick the small part which you think which can be moved to a module and do it, and every time do small steps. And the annotations you can always do. Try to use standard annotations, but that is always having some limitation, but it's also worth doing it. Thank you for the question. Any other question? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Also, yeah, I do agree that to decouple from the vendor technology, but the problem is that when how you do a trade-off between like the performance or the security, because we know that some library already handle this thing or do the optimistic for us, but if we do that just to decouple from this thing, how we handle this thing, how you do the trade-off
Yeah.
on this situation.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, that's true. So some of the libraries are handling security for you. That's why we have the modular. We are not changing the Spring Boot completely away. So we have it. You can still use Spring Security and everything, but more keep it in one place. It's like when we are using Lombok, right? When we are using Lombok, we put it everywhere. It's not needed. So keep your favorite framework into that particular deployment module and keep using it. I'm using, if I go here, I'm using all the things frameworks. Like you can see, I'm using the framework annotation to for my database connectivity and everything. So, but I'm only limiting it to this particular module, and that is where you are exposing it to the outside world. Also, that's where your endpoints and everything. So, your core logic, business logic, it's inside. And yeah, if for example, one more thing you can do for database, you think you need a Spring for database, use it, but keep it inside this database module. And for connecting to your Kafka, if you want, you need a particular framework for that. Use it, but keep it in a separate module. So when you need to change it, you only need to change that particular module. Thanks for the question. It's fine. I will be here around, and yeah, you can always catch me. Thank you for being here. Thank you.